All right. Well, thank you all for having me today. It's really a pleasure to be with you. I'm going to spend just a few minutes sort of level setting, hi Neil, level setting everyone just about ARC. You probably have heard the name, but you may not know kind of all the things that we're up to. And then I'm going to have a conversation with Barbara for 20 minutes or so. So about ARC. We are a privately held, airline-owned organization built to deliver services to the airline industry. We are celebrating our 40th anniversary. We actually started operating in January 1 of 2025, but we were incorporated in about 2 weeks ago, 40 years ago. We are owned by a number of airlines that you see listed here: North American Airlines, American, Delta, United, Southwest, JetBlue, Hawaiian, and Alaskan. This slide needs to be updated because now that's one. JetBlue and Air Canada. And then we have Lufthansa and Air France on our board of directors. We work with 240 airlines. That number should probably be about 245 by the end of the year. And there's over 10,000 accredited travel agents that ARC manages on behalf of airlines. Our original purpose was just that: accredit travel agents, let airlines know who are they doing business with, and we were responsible for distributing boxes of paper tickets that represented blank checks in the industry that could be handwritten. So we were really, really focused on that reporting and settlement and accreditation function. We've expanded dramatically over the 40 years in terms of the services we provide the industry, but those are our roots and probably what you know us best for. So today, we are really aligned with where the airline industry is trying to go, and we think about our business in really 3 different ways. So distribution is transforming. We're going to talk a lot about that, I'm sure, this morning. NDC is coming online. The way airlines want to distribute their content and manage their relationships is continuing to evolve. One Orders is on the horizon. I'll talk a little bit about that, I think, in the Q&A. And that is a big focus for us, is to ensure that the way airlines operate with their partners is efficient, is meeting everyone's needs and goals, and we're kind of behind the scenes trying to make that all happen. Over the years, especially after the last couple of decades, we've built a very large data business. We provide data services to airlines, corporations, TMCs, aircraft manufacturers, just about anybody who has an interest in the airline industry may be a subscriber to a data product that we offer. And that just continues to be a really important and growing part of our business because it's just all about the data. Especially when you think about AI, you have to have great data to use that technology in an effective way. And then the other thing that we do that we are spending a little bit more time on these days is, in terms of elevating people's awareness, is we work behind the scenes a lot. 240 airlines, 10,000 agencies. There's probably 20-ish system providers, including the big GDSs that you recognize, but then other technology providers that are enabling airlines and agencies to do business together. We work with all of them to try to create, in what's a very complex environment with many, many players, the most efficient processes as possible. So an example of that is related to NDC. NDC has been challenging for a lot of TMCs, especially with a corporate focus, to implement because the selling process isn't the challenge, it's the operational and servicing process because airlines have done things in different ways. Not by design to be difficult, but they're all implementing their own new processes, and as a result, as it started to get to scale, we were hearing and seeing, and agencies are saying, it's really hard because we're not having a consistent set of processes to operate with. So we started a NDC advancement working group, included about 20 airlines, about 20 agencies, 7 or 8 airlines, 7 or 8 system providers, and just started to put all those operational issues on the table. It's messy. Pam represented the World Travel Group. She could be the person to tell more about this than I can. But really, it was operational and servicing stuff that was making NDC harder to implement. So if we can standardize that or create some best practices that takes all that noise out of the back office process and system, it just makes it easier for TMCs to engage with NDC and bring that kind of content to their customers. So those are the kinds of things that we do around trying to help this entire ecosystem operate more efficiently. If we're doing that well, corporate buyers will not be completely clueless that that's going on, and they'll just get the benefits of a better servicing and an operational experience from their agency partners. So those are kind of the three major areas of focus for our team of 350 people. And I wanted to just mention that we're in really good shape as an industry in the US. Volumes, we'll settle $98 billion worth of air sales this year. We are right back up to 2019, pre-COVID levels of volume. And we have seen really no significant shift in the whole pie of air travel in the US from the agency channel to airline direct. It still remains about 60-40. About 60% of the transactions are coming through the direct channel and about 40% coming through the TMC. What we have seen is a lot of growth in NDC. So this time last year, we were probably at just under 10% of the transactions processed by ARC were on NDC, and we're ending the year with that just about doubled. We had our peak was in the summer at 21%. When this started a couple of years ago, it was almost all OTA volume, so not in your world so much, but the growth has been through the TMCs. As TMCs have started to build out their tech stacks, their content, their ability to deal with content that's coming in different forms into their systems, we're starting to see the growth in NDC. So really excited about that, because what NDC does represent is the ability for airlines to provide offers that are more personalized to the transaction. A bundle, a corporate bundle. I recognize that all of that doesn't exist yet, and some people are frustrated that it hasn't happened faster, but NDC is the means to deliver that kind of content, so we see this as very promising. We have about 30 airlines that are implemented now through ARC to deliver NDC, with a number that we'll be implementing in 2025, and there's others further back in the queue who are still building out their capabilities. I mentioned our data platform. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that this is a big part of what we do. We work with IATA, sort of our partner globally. We have every day over 100 airlines that send us files of all their airline direct sales. So if somebody buys something on a website, and through their agency partners. So that contributed data feed comes in. It's the world's largest repository of airline ticketing data. We provide products to airlines. We provide products to agencies. A typical scenario for a TMC may be that they work with multiple partners, or they've acquired other agencies, and from us they can get one consolidated view of all their ticketing activity. Airlines use the data for revenue management, for network planning, where should they maybe be adding more aircraft, et cetera. Others, corporations, are probably impacted by our data through a product we offer that helps airlines manage their sales programs with corporations, their discount programs. So lots and lots of interesting use cases for data, and it only continues to grow. And that's kind of just the overview of ARC. Wanted to make sure you knew we did something more than simply accredit travel agents and fight fraud in the industry, which is, of course, part of our core mission. But now I'm really looking forward to a chat with Barbara.
Thank you, Lauri.
Where do you want me? Right here? Okay.
All right, pretty interesting stuff, yeah? As the saying goes, it's not your grandma's ARC anymore, is it?
I'm about to celebrate my 20th anniversary there, and I am a grandma, but I take your point, yes.
Listen, we need to learn to not be so sensitive about age.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm working on that as well. No, but really, truly enlightening, and the way ARC is leaning into the industry and really elevating the way you engage. It would be great to hear a little bit more in detail. How are you engaging, for example, with TMC's World Travel specifically?
It was definitely feedback from our board a couple of years ago that we needed to up our game on customer engagement, and we recognized that as well because there's so much change. 5 years ago, maybe not so much, but the amount of change, the amount of relationships that you need to build and you need to understand what people are struggling with and how they're using your services. So this year, we're 350 people at ARC, but we added 12 new customer engagement roles. So it was a pretty significant investment for us. It made it a building year from a budget perspective, but we knew we needed to really deepen our engagement. And we've started some new forums like the NDC Advancement Working Group that worked all year. I'm really excited about the work that they've done. I think it's going to make a huge difference. And it was just a matter of like knowing the right people and getting them all in a room and talking through what the issues are. You know, a GDS sees the transaction differently than an airline, than an agency who's on the receiving end, and you just have to get people in the room and talk through those problems and figure out the solution. And so those are the kinds of things that we're doing. In the past, we've done things, we have some new forums. We're starting a corporate buyers council because that's a really important group of constituents in the industry who actually have come to us to say, there's a lot of information swirling around NDC, and we kind of want to, not every buyer wants this, but some wanted to really know more about how things work, behind the scenes. So that's an example of a new forum as well. So there's just lots of things that we're doing that are trying to help us not just keep up with the industry, but we want to be proactive. We want to be understanding what the challenges that are going to come and get kind of in front of them wherever possible.
Yeah, great. So I'm kind of curious out to the group. Does anybody have clear recollection of the first time you heard NDC? How many years ago did NDC, yeah, I should have said Ryan or Lauri can answer this question. Who remembers the first time NDC entered our ecosystem? Deb?
Mm-hmm. That's about right, yeah. I was at the first NDC meeting that I had held in Montreal.
So this is a little bit off of the prepared questions because,
Ooh,
we got to
she could
keep
do
it
this,
spicy.
yeah. Why is it taking so long? Is that going to be
Well,
a question?
I wasn't going to actually word it quite like that because I do think, we can get over our skis and there are things that are pretty complicated, but they also are going to have some good result, which I think is where we're all starting to see and anticipate NDC will be. But what is the learning in terms of, think about 14 years ago. I can remember a TMC claiming they did the first NDC transaction, and it was in their proposals, and it was part of the pitch, and what's the learning that the industry, the airlines should take away from?
It's a really great question.
Getting too far ahead of embellishing versus exploring and co-creating and getting the industry to a better place versus making it a sprint to who can claim a victory.
Okay, so that question took a little right turn in terms of how I was thinking about it. But what I think the learning around the NDC journey for the industry has been, and one that we're trying to apply to the next big thing, which is orders, is getting all the right stakeholders in the room from the get-go. My look back as being kind of involved or on the, the sidelines observing NDC is that we, as an industry, needed to understand sort of the there's shopping and getting an NDC offer and that part of the transaction, but there's the servicing, the operational processes that, that are part of the life of a transaction. I think those got missed, and so we're playing some catch up on that now, and we don't want to repeat that with orders, which I can talk about later. In terms of the, kind of what you were saying about, I think people were trying to describe the benefits that NDC could bring to the industry, but I think maybe the learning would be those benefits are real, but I'm not sure that there was a picture painted of the kind of the amount of change and change management that's going to have to happen before you get to those benefits. You heard it in my earlier remarks. Like a lot of times I'm like, well, where are the bundles? Where are the corporate bundles? You have to build, almost like Erica was saying, you've got to build this technology stack and foundation in order to get to that time and place where you can actually not only sell a bundle, but service a bundle. And maybe if we could have painted a more realistic picture about the amount of change management this is going to require to get to those benefits, it would have, maybe it would have helped people to understand a little bit better what it was going to take to get to those things. That would be my thought.
Perfect. So I'm going to open it up to the group in a little bit. So if you've got some questions, or if you don't, be thinking about them, because we'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives as well. So with that, Lauri, if I could, what are you hearing from the airlines in terms of the future distribution strategies?
There's really, I mean, obviously airlines are not a monolithic thing. They each have their own approaches to the market, priorities, their own challenges internally to get to the strategic vision that they're driving towards. But I think for us, we see it in sort of two areas. One, it is they want to be able to distribute their product, all of the products that they have, to the right person at the right time through the way that that person wants to consume the offer. That's easy to say, super hard to do, but every airline we work with is somewhere on that journey. So they want to build, they want a retailing kind of shopping experience. They don't want to see their products treated as a commodity. They put a tremendous amount of investment in them, and they want to be sure that people are getting the best possible buying and servicing experience. What that means and how they go about it may vary from airline to airline, but I think they almost universally share that objective. We also are hearing a lot of concern from airlines about, control of their product. It is their product. They're not happy if, an agency answers the phone identifying themselves as American Airlines when they're not American Airlines. Or they're not happy when they construct a program with a corporation and a TMC that is going to reward those partners for the business and the growth of the business. They put a lot of energy into designing those programs and the discounts. They're not happy when that agency turns around and opens the gate to other agents to sort of take advantage of all of those discounts when it wasn't intended for them. So distribution in this really complex and evolving world, is about the retailing, shopping, and buying experience, but it's also, protecting their product so that the value that it represents doesn't get diminished. That's what we hear.
All right, good. So again, because I love to live in the improv, Pat, can I put you on the spot? So we're talking very sort of North America, US-centric with NDC. Mm-hmm. Many of you know, some of you participated. We were here yesterday, really focused on the travel programs that are looking to expand to a multinational or global perspective. NDC is quite different in Europe, so it would be great if you could stand, introduce yourself, and share a bit of perspective.
Standing up. I am still. I'm Pat, I'm the CEO at Clarity in the UK, world's partner in the UK. NDC's been around in Europe since 2015, when Lufthansa first broke ground on it, really, and we've been transacting NDC at Clarity since 2016. Barb mentioned before, didn't you, the agency, who shan't be named, who very self-congratulatory said, we've done an NDC booking. Yeah, I think it was handballed by 10 people across the organisation in order to make it happen, whilst the rest of us quietly got on with it and just transacted NDC. We've been transacting NDC, like I say, since 2016 because it gave us access to the kind of fares that people were accessing on the .coms. And the issue really is about continuous pricing. So the idea that you are able to get intermediate prices where you couldn't get them on the GDS, and therefore you had this issue, and it's still there today, where the .com is cheaper than the Edifact channel, so the traditional GDS channel. And naturally, that creates lots of challenge for a travel manager, where the travel manager is going, hey, my people are complaining here because they're getting cheaper prices on the .com, they want to go Maverick, I can't control this. So we've had to serve that up for everybody. In terms of personalization, though, I go back to Erica's house, Some of these airlines are stood there in the foundations of this house on the building site saying, look at this beautiful kitchen, and look at this stunning closet. It's not there. It doesn't exist. So when we talk about personalization, that really doesn't exist now. This is about price in Europe. Fragmentation in Europe, as we mentioned before, is a real thing that's been there for many, many years. So the low-cost carriers have transacted with us in a different way since they began, via APIs, similar to how NDC is working. So we were probably market ready and able to do this in a way in which maybe the US hasn't been, as this has happened really in the US over the last 18 months, I'd say, as things have accelerated. So it's different. It's very much about price. I think it's very much about price in the US really right now. But we're adapting, and it doesn't mean that we all have to build direct connects with every single airline. I don't see that. I don't think the airlines want that. I think they're still going to want the consolidators, the GDSs. They're the things that make the difference, that make things simple. And actually, yeah, we do need to sit down and work together. Lauri and I have attended IATA meetings together as part of their Global TMC Council. That needs to continue. It sounds like ARC are doing a great job in that regard as well.
Thanks so much, Pat. How about some questions? Anybody in the group? Amanda, here, let us, Amber. Yeah, Autumn, sorry, over there.
So the whole NDC, can you hear me? Okay. NDC thing like just confuses me in general, but how is it going to work for companies that have contracts with specific airlines and then being able to get that content in? Because it sounded like trying to bundle things or like pick and choose, and we don't allow like upgrades, and we have specific things within our policy. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, a corporation chooses their program and their program partners, and most want to work with the TMC. And so in this scenario, I think it'd be the TMC's job to make sure that they have access to the content that you need for your program. That could include you working with, having NDC content, but available through a GDS, an aggregator. There's lots of different ways, a direct, depending on the agency. It looks like World Travel is making some major investments to have the kind of tech platform that can allow them to provide all the kind of content that you want. And then they're going to apply your policy. I mean, that's the role of the TMC, right? To make sure, like, if you don't allow bundles, I think, you're right that it's mostly about pricing right now, but this is just a moment in time. This is a major transformation, and negotiated bundles may be part of your future program, and that might be economically, advantageous for you. You may want to have that, but maybe you don't have it today. But it would be your TMC's job, in my view, back in my TMC days, to make sure that we're applying the policy properly or managing it or letting you know of exceptions as they occur, however you want that done. So I think of it as, I think that sometimes NDC took on this boogeyman kind of feel. It's really, just think of it, it's just a way of exchanging data between a buyer and a seller. And it's a more modern way that allows for more types of data to be, provided. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but it's not a boogeyman. It's more of a transformation and modernization of how airline products are made available to agencies to buy on behalf of their customers, or in the case of an OTA, made available for a consumer to buy directly. So I don't think anything about NDC should concern you about your program and your ability to manage your program. If people go outside of your program, that's a different issue, and I think there is a gravitational pull for a lot of travelers to go to the .com direct supplier website, but that's not NDC causing that. That's, I think, some other pretty major trends the industry needs to get their head around.
Amanda, what I love about the question is I have been in travel a lifetime, but I did step away for a bit, and as odd as this may sound, I ended up in construction technology for a few years. And one of the things, and a bit of what was behind my question to you about what is the lesson learned, there's a lot of industries that come together competitively to cooperate to advance the position. And when you think about how NDC evolved and the disruption that it created, it did challenge the value of a managed travel program and made your jobs much harder. Of course, it made the TMC's role much harder because we have an extraordinary accountability to you. No matter what the industry challenges are, we are the single point of contact that drives the continuity and the performance of your program. And that, to me, is where I hope the industry, for any future advancements, would step back and establish who are the players, how do we move more cohesively through this and enhance it, opposed to making it, and that's not against the airlines, it's the entire ecosystem, including the buyers in the room, sitting at the table in early days and setting out standards and really trying to understand at the end of this. I think we could have accelerated the industry with a lot less disruption, and that would just be, again, guidance that I would ask we all continue to advocate for, because it's in our collective best interest if we move and advance the industry a bit more in lockstep.
I completely agree, and I think for that to be a successful approach, people who have an investment in how things work today have to be willing to at least be a part of that conversation in an open fashion.
Great. Erica.
And just, I think it would be really, really interesting, Lauri, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of the findings, and I know Pam represents us, in the NDC group, but just to, I know the learnings and the common practices or best practices
Sure.
just came out. I think that it would be beneficial for this group of people to hear about kind of what are those recommendations. And I know it was challenging. Everyone was represented there. So
Yeah.
if you wouldn't
Yeah,
mind.
I'm happy to do that. I hope it's not too like nerding out on ticketing stuff. And it's been about 20 years since I've issued a ticket, but I think I've followed the work of the team pretty well, and Pam can rescue me if I got it wrong. But here's an example. With NDC, the way it works is that there is a message to the airline saying, somebody wants to buy air travel. Can you give us an offer for this request? And an offer is made, the purchase is done, and then there can be changes to that transaction. When there's a change, there's this new acronym, because we love our acronyms. It's called an order change notification, an OCN. Well, as you can imagine, OCNs are generated for all kinds of things. The flight time departure could change by 2 minutes. That's an OCN. There could be an aircraft change. There could be, all kinds of things happen, right? It's a very complex industry. And so this sounds sort of obvious, but one of the best standards or best practices that came out of this working group is for every change, OCN, notification, every change should be sent to the agency. Now, you might say, well, that's sort of like duh, but the truth is you've got 30-some airlines that have been implementing NDC. They're all working with their agency partners, and they were hearing from some agents, I don't want an OCN unless if the schedule changes 5 minutes or more. So don't send me that. Other agencies are like, send it all to me. It's my job to shift through that and decide whether that's a material enough piece of information that I need to action it. So it's a kind of a simple example, but before there was NDC and everything went through a GDS, the GDS had processes in place to send all those messages, and all the rules about which messages should be sent and how it should be sent were probably established 40 years ago. Well, now you have this new way of exchanging information, and the rules needed to be re-examined for this new world that we're in. And so the conclusion was, despite the fact that some agencies said, don't send me all that stuff, I don't want it, the view of the very forward-looking TMCs that were part of this effort were like, no, it doesn't make sense to tell this airline only send us this message and another airline this message, and send it all, and it's our job to decide whether or not it's material to our customers or not. Very simple example, and it sounds like like, probably shouldn't have been so hard to get to that, but you actually literally had to get everybody that's involved in the room, talk it out, the pros and the cons, what does it mean, and make a decision.
I think it's just a great illustration. This is an extraordinary undertaking.
It is. It's a
an
really
extraordinary
big change. Yeah.
It really, really is.
And now you can all forget about OCN. You never need, for the buyers in the room, you don't ever have to worry about that. Your TMCs have got that covered.
All right, there's a question in the back while we're getting the microphone
sure.
there. How about, you had mentioned earlier something about one order.
Yeah,
What is that?
Yeah. You've probably heard the term offer and orders. So offer, think of offer as NDC. It's, there's an offer, there's going to be a purchase. So order is the sort of parallel companion to this modernization effort. So again, I hope I don't want to get too detailed here, but you've probably mostly heard of a P&R. So in today's world, decades of development, we have a P&R, and that is a passenger name record, and that's sort of a container for all of the ticketing data. There's a e-ticket number, there might be a MCO number, there might be an EMD, there's ticket data in this P&R, in addition to other things. But it is a very antiquated way to manage all of those data elements from an airline perspective, and the downstream impacts of the inefficiency of that can be felt for agencies and their customers. So the idea of the order is to have a container. I've got Neil's here, so man, I hope I get this right. An order is think of it as a shopping cart. And so it's a more modern way of, assembling the elements of a trip. And it will still include things like ticket numbers and maybe a SKU number associated with a bag purchase, or it's just it's a modern way of assembling the data that's needed for a passenger's trip. So that data can be exchanged more easily within an airline and all of their different systems. They've got revenue management, they've got passenger boarding systems, they've got all kinds of things going on. They've got providers of services. You order a special meal, that information has to flow. So it's really a major modernization effort, kind of similar to Erica's building the foundation, a more modern way of exchanging information, and it will create efficiencies. There's direct benefits for airlines and their immediate partners like agencies in terms of information flow, but there's downstream benefits because the more efficient the system is, you're going to have a better traveler experience and all those kind of downstream effects. So it's a big effort, and it's underway. It's been underway now for a few years. ARC is working with a couple of airlines and a couple of agencies on an MVP for one order, or for orders. We'll launch that in January of 2026. So we've been working on it all year, and we're going to need all next year to work on it as well. And it is being built on IATA standards. And the first kind of use case is settling an order with cash as a form of payment, so we don't have to get all the credit card billing people involved in this, and getting it into the agency's sales report. So it sounds simple, but it's actually at least a couple years worth of work. And that's just for a very simple use case. Many airlines are telling us they're not tackling order management systems until later in this decade, so we're at 2025 coming up, so towards the end of the year. But we have a couple of airlines they want to be ready to go in early 2026, so that's what we're targeting. And I think it's going to be a multi-year journey for sure. It's a major investment for an airline to move to an order management system, and they're all in different places. A lot of this should be absolutely, completely not seen or felt by buyers or travelers, although the end game, if you think about it, is to get to something that's simpler for a customer, that they wouldn't have what they have today, which is ticket numbers to see on an itinerary, record locators that may look different from the agency and the airline, and the idea is that it's more of a retail shopping cart experience, and it's going to take a while to get to that.
Great. So we have time for one last question.
Hi, I'm Susan with AMC Networks, and I have a question. NDC wrapping my brain around. I'm sort of understanding it a lot better, but Pat had mentioned continuous pricing. And that's something that I've only just recently heard, right? Dynamic and continuous pricing. And we've always known that the airlines load new airfares throughout the day, hundreds of times, right? They're constantly changing. What is continuous pricing, and how does that affect our ability to guarantee our travelers are obtaining the lowest fare, and that, you know, we've always said book in advance and all those things to get them to get the best airfare for their seat that they're buying, and now what does that mean to the industry, this continuous pricing?
I'm going to try to answer that in the 4 seconds that the clock says. So I think is that you back there? Is that where the question came from? Yeah, okay. Well, I think of continuous pricing simply as having more price points an airline can use than 26. For reasons I won't try to get into, the airlines have been largely constrained by 26 price points that are available to them when they file fares. And that's because there's 26 letters in the alphabet, and probably back in the day, 40 years ago, nobody thought there'd be no effing way would there ever be more than 26 prices available. Pardon?
Each letter.
Oh, well.
Each letter then has another 15.
Yeah, I'm not a pricing expert, but continuous pricing is the idea that the airlines can have more granularity in the prices that they can set. Now, in terms of like, I'm channeling my TMC days when I was in account management and had to answer this question probably every day. Like, the lowest price, with applying any kind of discount that's negotiated, is always a moment in time thing, right? Prices change, availability changes, and so, you know, I think the bigger issue for continuous pricing is not that it's available and that I think airlines are going to want to expand their use of it. I think the bigger challenge from a buyer perspective is how do you benchmark your program? That's what I think is the bigger challenge. And ARC has some ideas about that from a data perspective, but it's not fully developed.
Gosh, Lauri, thank you so much. I think you'll all agree with me. The role that you're playing, the role that ARC is playing in this extraordinary situation is nothing less than Herculean. And all of the efforts that you're doing to help us get to that right place is so incredibly appreciated. Is this breaking up? So there's a saying, when Barb goes Barb, it's not pretty. I'll keep it together. Hello. Okay. So again, it is, as the saying goes, it takes a village, but without your leadership and really shepherding us through this, I'm not sure where we would be. And we have all, I think, come to see that NDC is going to bring extraordinary value. Certainly, World Travel is embracing this. We know that it's going to continue to be a journey. There's going to be lots of questions. And NDC will continue to dominate a lot of the conversations in the future, but it's going to be a very positive thing. So thank you so much for joining us. Lauri will be here.
Thank you. Yeah,
so
I'll be here.
If you have questions.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.